Hi, guys. Good evening, and wishing you all a very happy Saturday. I hope you're enjoying your weekend. Welcome to the next webinar with Enguru Talk, where we are going to talk about something which I'm sure we have been a part of at some point in our life. It may have been the school, it may be the college, or if we are working professionals, of course, at definitely some point in our life, we have been a part of it. As you know, the topic of today's webinar is the basics of presentation skills. So I'm sure we have all been a part of this at some point in our lives, as I just said. Let us just go over together a few important points to remember with regard to presentation skills, as it is something that has become extremely important in our day-to-day life, be it at office or be it at work, or even in terms of our research projects. So let's begin. So, what do you think is the purpose of visual information? Because clearly, visual information is what we try and do presentations for. You can feel free to write down your comments and your views in the comment section, and we would definitely love to respond to them. So, what do you think is the purpose of any kind of visual information? Don't worry about being right or wrong because I mean, we're just talking, we're just having a discussion together. Okay, so visual information in very short is, if we use it in a PPT to, in short, it's something that we use to make our, make more impact, make more clear what we are trying to say. So when I say visual information, it may not be just one picture or a diagram. It can be charts, it can be graphs, it can be any kind of pictures which convey. I'm sure you would agree that it's not just us, but it is also the others. We tend to remember pictures, what we see, visuals, more than the text. I'm sure we all loved reading comics at some point in our life, right? That was because comics had pictures. But having said that, the general books that we have, I'm sure we don't like reading them. So that is the reason visual information is used in our presentations, to make it more relatable to the audience and also for the audience to understand it better. Moving on to the next slide, which talks about the different types of visual information that we have. Now, as I just discussed, it need not be just a diagram. It can be anything like a graph. So graphs are generally used to show any kind of changes that happen, any patterns, any comparison that we may have to make between different things. It totally depends on the type of presentation you're making and what topic you are going to cover. The second thing that we can use are tables, which is a very good tool to classify information. It helps you organize the information into shorter chunks so that it's easier for you to explain as well as the other person to understand. The third type of visual information is, of course, diagrams, which I'm sure we all know, which is used to illustrate a point, make something much more clearer. Fourth one is nothing but charts. Again, charts are very useful for showing any kind of ranking, any kind of processes that we have. Images, which is the fifth type of visual information, is, you can say it's similar to diagrams. However, they are used to represent. So if there is a very difficult concept that you are going to explain, which people may or may not understand the details of, it's always a good idea to use images to represent them. And the last type, of course, are maps. Maps, as you know, can be used to show locations. It can be used to show direction. So any of these visual informations, when used, are something which is very, very common and also helps make our presentation much better. As we are talking about the basics of presentation skills, it is something that, of course, we may or may not have to make, but it's good to know the basics. So, when we say presentation skills, there are certain points that we need to remember, and we are going to go through those points right. I'm sure you're able to go through the slides that we have. So let's just look at the points one by one. The first one, make your key point stand out. It is very, very important that your presentation, your PPT talks about one main point, and that is very evident to everyone who is watching your presentation. The second thing to remember would be to use short phrases rather than long sentences. As you can see on the screen right now, there are very short phrases used in bullets rather than having written the entire passage down, because it's more friendly towards the reader. The audience is able to read easily, and at the same time will also be focusing on you rather than just having to read through whatever's mentioned on the slide. Avoid too much text. Again, this is connected to the second point. If you use short phrases, of course, it will be a much better way to go ahead rather than using too much text on the slide. Fourth point, relevant data. If you feel there are some things which may or may not be relevant to the current scenario, please don't mention it. You can avoid some information if you feel it will not fit in within the time, or if it's not that important. Avoid too many colors. In school, we were taught to make colorful presentations, use a lot of animations, use a lot of sounds and music, but that doesn't really go a long way when we come into the workplace, because what they want is very clean presentation or a slide. So avoid too many colors. If you're not sure which color to use, it's always better to use a black and white. So you can use a white background and black font color. Avoid any kind of distractions during your presentations that may be on your slide. Too many images flying from here and there, too many animations, or it may even be distractions while you're speaking. The last point on this page is really, really important. You should know who your audience is. It is extremely important to know that. Now, why I say it is extremely important is because if you know who your audience is, what happens is you are able to I would say use language which is specific for them. So if there is an audience which knows a lot about the topic, you know that there will be a lot of questions and you have to be well prepared. You cannot mess up with the facts. Similarly, if you have an audience who have a very low level of English, you know you have to simplify the language that you use in order to make it better for them to understand. So, to sum up, make your point with impact by using the right charts in presentations. Very, very important. We often do not give enough importance to this part. We think we just need to use charts and graphs, but you have to use the right chart. So, a pie chart can be used to represent proportions, line chart can be used to represent trends, a column or a bar chart can be used to represent ranks under different conditions. Very, very important for us to understand. If you guys have any questions, any doubts related to any of the points that we are discussing, please feel free to ask us. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So these would be a few basics that we need to remember in terms of making presentations. The other important thing, of course, is practice. We often do not give enough importance to practice because we think that it is something which may or may not be required, or we know too much about the topic. But please do not take it lightly. Do practice as much as possible. This is clearly because practice makes a man perfect, as the saying goes. On the other hand, practice is also something that helps you go over your points again and again, because you will just have bullet points on the screen. So it's a very good idea to go over explaining those bullet points. And of course, research. That is the second most important thing when you are doing a presentation. Quite often you have to answer questions at the end of the presentation. Please make sure you are ready with the answers. You should be. That is where the research comes in. In case you are not, for any reason, please do not lie, do not state untrue facts, but you can mention that you will get back to them with the answers later, as and when required. So these guys were a few basics of presentation skills. There are a lot more to learn: how to generate your slides, how exactly to go ahead with the preparation, what to speak, what not to speak, what would be the good phrases to use. There's a lot more that we can do. And we are definitely there to help you. So in case you are interested in our Job Ready feature, which helps you out with your presentation skills, please download the Enguru Spoken English app. For just $4.99, you get 33 modules. You get 2 telephone interactions with one of our expert trainers who have conducted interviews, as well as have been training kids and working professionals regularly for the corporate world. And at the same time, you also get your resume edited. So all this at just rupees 4.99. And of course, at the end of it all, you get an industry recognized certificate. So what are you waiting for? I think you could just go ahead, sign up with Enguru. It's available on the iOS as well as Android. Please download the app, sign up for the Job Ready feature, and get ready to join your dream job. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good learning session. We'll see you again next week with our next set of webinars. Till then, have a good weekend, and hope you get your dream job soon. Thank you so much.